I'm here in the offices of Nexigen in Newport today. Because of Nexigen's cutting-edge technology solutions for smart cities, they have been in the news and been jetting all over the country lately. Let's meet Jon Salisbury, co-founder and Chief Technology Officer of Nexigen, and hear about his story and what Nexigen's doing right now and why they're in the news. Today on People of Northern Kentucky. Jon, welcome to People of Northern Kentucky. Can you tell me just a little bit about your background? Like, where'd you grow up? Where'd you go to school?
I have a boring background initially. My parents were both teachers for the school systems, and both were master's degrees students in college. So they were very, intelligent and nerds. And my brother and I grew up with just kind of that kind of environment in the household with computers, modems, webcams, all a long time ago before the general population, I would say, had them. I did not follow suit. I ended up leaving high school and getting a GED, and then followed a professional volleyball career, which was unsuccessful. But I did move to California and headed down to Florida, and then came back and met my beautiful wife, who's now our HR manager at Nexigen, and she put me on the right straight and narrow. And I went back to school and really got into technology services, technology certifications, and started Nexigen back in 2003.
Nice. Well, tell me a little bit more about your wife. And you've got some kids too, right?
That's right. I've got a 4-year-old and an 8-year-old. The 8-year-old's Olivia. The 4-year-old's Savannah. I definitely get a lot of Barbie Playhouse at home. And they love dolls, flowers, butterflies, anything girly. So I definitely have gotten a better understanding of that lifestyle.
So we were in the same Leadership Northern Kentucky class together last year, and so I follow you on Facebook and the internet, and you have been so busy jetting around that you're making me tired. But it seems to energize you instead. Can you tell me a little bit about why you and Nexigen are so busy right now?
So Nexigen started in 2003 as a cloud services provider, and then we've evolved into cloud services, professional IT services, where we'll just fix problems for businesses and enterprises around the country, actually, even around the globe in certain instances. And we'll now do cybersecurity, remediation, forensics work, all sorts of in-depth cyber security work. In doing that, we found a need for high schools to be more engaged at the student level in the cybersecurity process. So we're highly integrated with Northern Kentucky University, which has a great cyber defense program. Both coaches for the cyber defense program work at Nexigen, and we decided to take that program to the high school level. So in doing that, we found that we started at Newport Public Schools, and we found that some of the kids were not taking their one-to-one program devices home with them. Working with the schools, there were some surveys that were created, and we found that about 20 to 22% of the students didn't have internet at home, which became a digital divide, kind of like smack you right in the face. So when we found that out, we started engaging deeper. Shortly, this was actually occurring during the Leadership Northern Kentucky class. So I was learning about all these county problems and city problems, and now I saw these school system problems. And all of that really encompasses what you would call a smart city working together from a technological standpoint, transit, digital divide, all these other types of things. So during that Leadership Northern Kentucky class, I consider that sort of like my education for smart cities as we were taking around so much. So we developed a product which we were manufacturing, designing, engineering in Cincinnati, and then we're selling that outside of Cincinnati, which is somewhat unusual. Traditionally, a lot of product manufacturing is done on Silicon Valley and a lot of the innovations done there. We're able to do a lot of that here and utilize the local talent here, and then deliver outside the city.
explain a little bit more. How does this work? How does this hub work?
If you think about what Google did to the internet, so the internet was this chaotic. There were chat boards, there were message boards, there were direct links, there was disorganization of information. And everyone personally had their own organization system they used, right? Google came up with a very consistent, repeatable process that was just a box on the internet that you would go, and they would handle all of that data collection and organization for you, okay? There's a new internet that's coming. It's called the Internet of Things, or some people call it the Internet of Everything. And it's more of the internet of the physical world, okay? So we're basically becoming the eyes, ears, mouth, nose of the city. And then we collect that data back, and then we present that information back to citizens, back to cities, and then we organize it for them, much in the same way that Google simplified the internet. We want to simplify the smart city internet.
So what kind of things are you, I don't know what the word for it be, collecting? What kind of information about what things? Like, is it trash and parking and
all sorts of things? Parking could be one of them. Knowing if people are walking from the north to the south. What's the quantity? What's the gender? What's the age?
What? I mean, it picks up that information?
Absolutely.
Wow.
What kind of audio analytics in the background? Do we have a gunshot that took off, that it was set off? If there was, what kind of digital recording do we now have in place? Are we alerting the proper authorities? Are we allowing people to then make phone calls? We create 3D maps of environments. So if you're going into a complex city, that can be that can be a hard process to actually just navigate into the office building. For instance, this morning I went to NKU, which I go to a lot. I was given the building number AC 701, which if you've never been to NKU, that's Administrative Center, 7th floor, first, on the right. But which building is that? Where is it on campus? Where do I park most efficiently to get there? So all that information is physical world logistics that we're simplifying so that when you're making that transit, or we're finding out how people are making those transits, right? And then you can optimize like data presentation to people. So maybe a sign that says, hey, if you're parking for AC, this is probably the wrong spot. If we find that 70% of our transits are coming in from the other side of campus.
So would you physically walk up to this hub and see that information?
You would, and then you're also the campus or city is collecting that information. So that means that they can then put in controls in future. So if we see that the routes, like 70% of them are inefficient, we can put in some control measure to say, hey, you guys need to, here's where the problem was. Let's go ahead and put a sign up here. That will redirect traffic to this new location. Okay, now let's measure the results.
So it's helping the campus, the city, to plan better.
Absolutely. Smart city planning is what we're about. And then the key to it is that it's self-sustaining, which means that it actually costs the city nothing and then actually creates a profit center and actually pays the city.
So how does that happen? How
through advertisement, through data sales on the back end, through integrations with different people. For instance, Google could be a potential buyer of our data because they want to know where people are, where they're going. Not necessarily the exact person, but if you get enough volume, then that becomes a data set that potentially Google would be interested in to help with their mapping services.
I'm a little confused when I see a lot of different business names in this same building. Can you explain why there's so many different businesses in this one building?
All right, so Nexigen is the parent company that we started in 2003, and it's done very well. Most of the employees that you see here work for Nexigen. We started making investments into other people. So we believe in the entrepreneurial spirit. We believe in entrepreneurship. We want to back it. We really have the bug, my business partner and myself. So we first invested in a company called Pay Options, which is a payroll provider in Cincinnati, which was one guy. I always look at businesses, it's kind of on the sign behind me. You'll see people process products. Most businesses start because of the people. As they mature, they move into more of a process-oriented organization, and as they mature more, they then get into more refined product offerings that match the marketplace needs. So when you're doing an investment in a startup, people are extremely important. Obviously, conception and ideation is important. So we invested in really good people. That's Ryan McCullough with payroll options. After that worked out, I ended up meeting Jeremy Loudon, who's the president of NimbleSoft, and they became a partner with us. So NimbleSoft is a software development company. They make data warehouses, data cubes. They move data. They make mobile apps, web apps, all sorts of fun stuff. They were a good fit with Nexigen since we do cybersecurity and infrastructure and cloud, so we fit together nicely. So they have now actually reside here inside of the Nexigen headquarter building. SmartLink is our new company that we're offering for smart cities, and we even started a investment in a carbon fiber manufacturer in Cincinnati called Beast Carbon, and that's where they make carbon fiber products at about the same price as plastic, and they're manufacturing our kiosks, our smart city kiosks. And then we also invested in a group called Smart Home HQ, which deploys smart home technology for advanced smart home residences and also some smart building tech.
Wow, so a lot goes on in this building.
Well, some of that's here. Most of the time when we make an investment, there's a group, a guy, a person, the people part, right? And he is who we're investing in, right? And then he runs his own domain and builds his own processes and own product sets. And what we do then is just supplemental. So it's not like I have to spend all day long doing a bunch of stuff for all of these different companies. It's they have very strong leaders and they run the companies. I'm a minority voice in the company.
You talked a little earlier about going into the schools and doing things. Can you elaborate that?
So the colleges, we interviewed, some NKU students by far are like the best interviewees. We find that they come very well prepared because they have what's called a practical application or applied informatics group. So they're actually getting onto the job experience in college. That's a little different than how the other colleges do it. A lot of the other colleges are more theory-based. So kids from NKU, we love. Two of the kids that we ended up hiring ended up being coaches on the NKU cyber defense team, which they got us involved with. And then we usually hire the star player of the cyber defense team each year. NKU, I think, has reached the top 5 in the country on multiple occasions. So they're a very good cyber defense team. The high school, the way to get that done to high school was just, we do an interviewing process where we ask questions like, how was your high school experience? A lot of the people that we hire are introverts. They were traditionally nerdy in high school. I wasn't necessarily nerdy in high school, but a lot of people were that work here, and we definitely understand that. And we wanted to figure out what their technical experience was in high school. So were they able to do these fun things that would inspire them to be more creative in the technology field? And we almost 100% found that the high school experiences were never met the expectation. So when we find problems, we tend to want to implement a solution. So we started a nonprofit called Tech Defenders, and we asked our engineers if they would be interested in unpaid time, like so we're paying them, their normal pay, if they would go 2 hours a week to a high school for a 12-week program and lead kids through a process of learning how to take a computer apart, how to put it together, how to build a switch, how to build a firewall, how to do cyber defense, some of the ethics involved with it, because some of these kids are really intelligent and you don't want them to kind of go to the dark side, so to speak, and be mentors. So we picked schools that weren't like super affluent. We picked Newport, we picked Taft High School, we picked NKCAC, which is more of a GED program, and we picked the Brighton Center's adult learning program. So these were non-typical, it wasn't like we went and picked the richest neighborhood and the richest set of kids, because we felt like they would already have more access. Yes. So it's done really well.
That is awesome. Now, about how many kids in high school do y'all help this way each year?
There's 4 schools right now. That's going to be expanded to 5. And it starts off usually with 15 kids per class, and it usually trims down to about 5 or 10. So somewhere around 40 to 50, I'd say, students.
Very interesting. Yep.
We also give awards and things like that. So the best student judged by peers and so forth gets some cool gifts. Like I think we're doing like Xboxes or something for the most recent class.
Something they would really enjoy.
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Talking about awards, I see a lot of awards in your award case down in the lobby. Can you tell me what some of those are for?
Yeah, we've won quite a few awards. Nexigen's done real well. A lot of them are based on growth. A lot of them are based on, a few of the most important ones to us are based on community. We've also had we were a finalist for Best Places to Work in Cincinnati. We have we spend a lot of time and effort and thought trying to make sure that we have a really good working environment, which includes a gym. A massage therapist comes here twice a month.
Wow.
We have a car cleaning service, which comes in to help with the guys' cleaning services. We've talked about implementing a oil change service, which we haven't gotten to yet, but we do a lot of extra things besides just the traditional. And we think and we also allow for some creative thought to take place. So it doesn't always happen in organizations, but a lot of organizations are led from top down. So the idea comes from the top and they push that idea down. We try to, it's not always perfect, but we try to develop way and channels for ideation to get baked up from the bottom. So much more of a bottom up approach, and then it gets formalized and then deployed. So we get really diverse thought processes, and that's some of the way I think we can be innovative.
You have a local symposium coming up April the 25th. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
So the NC Symposium, which is a smart city summit, which will be featuring public officials, private groups, and all sorts of all-star technical minds, will be taking place in Cincinnati on April 25th. At Centrifuge. We will showcase our new Gen 1 Milo Smart City node. That's a mouthful. That is in partnership with Zach Hun, who I've worked with. He's a really strong smart cities mind. He just did a TEDx talk, and he's a very bright, hardworking individual. I always feel like I'm hardworking. He makes me feel like I'm not. And he's been great to work with, but he has set up that summit so that it increases the dialogue of the smart city conversation, because smart cities are such an abstract concept. We're trying to add standards to it.
Yeah. Well, who would benefit from going to this symposium?
This one is really technical. So government officials, county officials, city officials, technology leaders, manufacturing, transit authorities. I believe Tank will be there. CDG would be a good place that would benefit from this. There's going to be a lot of interesting concepts that are brought up. That Rumkey would be a good person to come. People that have logistical problems. These are public-private partnerships that can take place, that efficiencies can be found, reduced cost expenditures can be found, and citizens can benefit from.
Okay, cool. So you are a very energetic and busy person, Jon. What do you do to unwind?
I have a bike in my office, and I ride my bike about half an hour to an hour a day. And then I play chess to unwind, which I know is really weird. It's a way for me to get thought processes out, and chess is one of those things that seems really complex. Once you get experienced in it, it becomes more mundane, and you can sort of apply methodologies that are already known. So it's become a way for me to unwind.
What are some of your favorite things about Northern Kentucky?
Number one is the rolling hills and the wooded land. So hiking is a big thing I like to do, but I would say the rolling hills by far so the landscape alone is tremendously valuable to me. Outside of that, I think the way that citizens act, so our social climate, to me is a lot of positive, low obstruction, supportive, from a community standpoint. So I like that a lot. And then I like the fact that we have so many different economic and diverse thought processes in the same region that kind of melt together. I feel like this is a really good place for innovation because we have so much diversity in thought. And I think that stems from having so many economic diverse backgrounds, kind of looking at things from different angles.
Cool. If there is something you can say directly to the people of Northern Kentucky, what would that be?
I think the most important thing we have in this region is our airport. In my opinion, in Northern Kentucky, outside of NKU, would be those two things. And I think if we can support those two things more and connect them more, I think that would benefit everyone.
Thank you for joining us today. Every Thursday at 10 a.m., get to know your neighbor by catching a new edition of People of Northern Kentucky.